and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen B. Parker. Joining me this week, my regular co-host, J. Jonna Jameson. I really should have put Stephen B. Parker here. It's so much better. And, of course, the wonderful Sanrixian, returning guest. It's been a minute, but, really glad to have you back. And what better way to have you... this is a perfect topic for you. You've done comic books, you've done animation, so I so hope you were able, and I'm really glad to have you here. Thank you for coming back.
Of course, yeah, good to see y'all.
Your audio is maybe just a little bit low.
Let me see if I can get this microphone closer to myself. Is that better?
Oh yeah, that's already better.
Okay, there we go. How's that?
I think that'll work.
Okay.
Maybe I just need to... No, I mean, anyway, I digress. You're good.
Okay.
So, as I was just saying to both of y'all right before we started, I love every frame of this movie, every moment of audio, everything about it. And I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't come to it until it was already, out in the wild, and you could watch it by renting it somewhere or whatever. And I was just bored one night, and I'm like, everybody says this is really good. Ashaya said it was really good. Mm-hmm. Is what really got me to take a closer look, and it blew me away. And subsequent watchings have only heightened this film for me. So I don't normally go first, but I guess I went first this week. But I will turn to our guest, and of course, ladies first, second, whatever. Once I'm done being chauvinistic.
Get it out. Get it out.
Once I'm done. But Sanri, what's your overall impression of this film?
Well, I have a lot to say about this movie. So when you asked me, I was like, yeah, I'll definitely do this because I love Sony Pictures Animation, who did this film. They also did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They did Mitchell's versus the Machines, which if you guys haven't watched that yet, it's great. And I just really like all of their movies. They do a really good job of blending 2D and 3D and the compositing, some of the special effects, the things that they do in post after all of the initial 3D stuff. I'm probably being really boring right now, but it's just
this is why you're here.
There's just so much love that goes into every single frame of that movie. And I just feel deep empathy for the struggles that they go to get it to just be so beautiful. So I think it's just visually, it's like a masterpiece. And then of course it's Spider-Man, and it's just not, regular Spider-Man. We get Miles Morales, and we get the best Spider-Man, Spider-Man B.
Right.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I just I loved it. I loved Spider-Man Noir. Whatever to Spider-Ham, I get it. He's funny. You got to do things for the kids. But yeah, I just think it's really great. They do a really good job of storytelling too.
There. I've corrected my name. I've got it now.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. And John, how about you? Where are you at with this film?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this when it came out. It was kind of a really pleasant surprise because I wasn't when I saw the previews, I wasn't sure how I kind of felt about it.
I think I was the same way.
Yeah, I don't know why I was kind of ambivalent towards it before I saw it. I don't really have a good reason for that, but once I saw it, it was the fact that, okay, I this is gonna really sound like my usual railing on the MCU. It's not. It's actually not meant to be that way. But I really enjoyed seeing something that was just pure Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man films of the MCU have a whole bunch of other things. You've got Iron Man is in the first one, and Nick Fury is in the second one. I really enjoyed coming back to something that was just pure unfiltered the Spider-Man. And the fact that it was animated, it reminded me of that joy that I got from watching the 90s
Yeah.
animated Spider-Man show that I so loved. And it made me realize, and maybe not entirely when I first saw it, but now the fact that I've been like watching so much animation, I think I realize that I really love the medium, and especially with comic book related properties, because I think it kind of frees it up artistically.
Like, if I can jump in on that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, first of all, like, there's a bunch of things that you can do in animation that are a lot easier or quicker than you think they would be, that you can do in both 3D and 2D. So it kind of like frees up, like you said, artistically, like what you can do narrative and visual wise. So you get a lot more dynamic shots, you get a lot more interesting camera angles. And yeah, it just hits like one of the 90s like Spider-Mans. And that's like the Spider-Man I know and love. And I will go to my grave believing that that is the best Spider-Man theme song. Challenge me. But like, that's what it really like reminded me of. And I think that they did, when they do the stuff with the panels, I don't know if this is like kind of like a faux pas to say this, but like animator people understand comic book people a lot better than filmmaker people understand comic book people. You know, like,
that makes sense to me though.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like the same world, man. It's like boarders who are storyboarders get into doing animation really easily, and a lot of storyboarders start as comic book artists. So it's like they understand like the openness of the medium, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I really loved how they were able to just embrace that comic book look, and I love the detail of the animation where especially if you're watching a larger screen, you can see like all the little dots.
Everything.
And stuff.
They did everything.
It looks like it's right off the pages of a comic book. Are
you talking about like the halftone effect, like the shaded effect? Yeah. That like when I see stuff like that, that's like really well done and intentional, and they execute it in a really good and correct way. It takes me like hours to figure out how they did it. I'm like, this is good. But it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen Invincible, but I struggled with that one because I knew exactly what they were doing, and it just kind of broke it for me.
I watched 5 episodes of Invincible. I haven't finished it.
Yeah. So the flying, I didn't dig the flying.
There's something weird about the animation for sure.
Yeah, it's all just like done in a really weird way where they animate it and then they take it into their compositing program and add additional camera effects and stuff. And if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't like spend a lot of time on it or have multiple people work on it, it can look really choppy. But I know they didn't have a lot of money, and I'm not trying to harp on them because I definitely feel for that struggle. But yeah, the halftone effect and Into the Spiderverse was really, really cool.
Because it was done on purpose, and it's not just like, I know sometimes they like you achieve those colors by placing colors of 2 dots, 2 different colored dots over each other. And in some of the sort of like blurred out background shots, they've got them intentionally misaligned to create that blurred effect. And it's just like,
so basically
it creates that deep field,
depth of field. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me how they blend hyperrealism with intentional like characterization, and like where that you have to be like really, really good to do this kind of style, like, and to make it feel immersive and beautiful and perfect. Like, it's a lot of team efforts. Like, you have the people making all of the models, you have the people setting up the models to be able to be animated, then you have the actual animation. So that's just all the 3D stuff up to the animation part. Then you have to have textures, materials, lighting. And then after that gets rendered and you have footage that has to be composited and more lighting effects, all the 2D effects. So that dot style that you're seeing is very intentionally done. And I'm thinking they probably set up for it in the 3D and then they take it and do it in the 2D, if I had to take a guess. But all of that is like very intentional, if that tracks, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, I talked a lot. You guys go.
No, like Steven's totally right. Like I'm so glad you're on.
Yeah, this is
for this film in particular. Sam.
I mean, I would enjoy to have you for any conversation, but when it's like when I know I need somebody who can speak about animation in a way that I can't, I mean, who else am I going to think of? Honestly.
Yeah. I think the lighting that really sets the mood is the thing that it's so hard to do well and to do right, and it feels intentional. And that's something that this studio just really succeeds at. Like, I loved Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's kind of like for kids, but it's really funny. And
I enjoyed it. And I was obviously an adult when it came out, but I thought it was cute.
Yeah, but like I'm just like Spider Ham. I'm like, you got a problem with animation or cartoons, or you got a problem with cartoons. Yeah. And that's like I feel like that's me talking to like my parents when I have an animated film on.
Well, if you want to like really like blow their minds sometime, like I can tell you like exactly how much work and how many man hours go into each shot and how much money that breaks down to. Like, just for like my Archer backgrounds, I can't probably talk about this on air, but we can DM about it sometime. Like, it's an insane amount of manpower that goes into making these things like hold up to the level of what you see with just like filmmaking. It's a labor of love. I mean, like, all the time I catch myself saying, if it was easy, everyone would do it. But a lot of people work really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And it ends up being a team effort, right?
Yeah. Like the shot of everybody in Miles' dorm where they're like on the wall and they're like hiding basically from his roommate. I know that one guy did the animation for that because I follow enough, I guess, animation Twitter that I've kind of like broken into getting recommended things. So when Into the Spiderverse came out, I was getting it all over my TL. And that specific shot was made by one guy. He set up like all the cameras and everything. But then on that, after all the animation was done, they had to go in and refine all the models. They had to add all the lighting, everything else I just talked about. Like, yeah, you can say like I did this shot, but in a group combined effort like that, it's like, how many times has that been touched?
Well, I mean, you can say that, you know, the same way an actor could say, I did this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, they're still part of a huge team. Mm-hmm. And with lots of different disciplines coming together. And that's what this was as well. I don't think it being an animated film makes it any less worthy of being considered, you know, on this in the same vein as non-animated films. Now, granted, the character is Spider-Man, and that is traditionally a character whose journey is meant to evoke the journey from childhood through adolescence and into adulthood. That was Spider-Man's sort of big breakout thing, is that before that, all the superheroes were always already adults. Spider-Man was 15 years old or whatever, and he was going through normal kid problems. So he became the relatable superhero in that way. And Spider-Man has sort of throughout all time retained that claim of being the hero that, yeah, okay, you're right, Kate. Spider-Ham is great, and we will talk about every individual character. But and the thing is, we all know the story of Peter Parker, so they could kind of just, you know, slapdash it together at the beginning of the film. You guys know this. I mean, and they reference the Tobey Maguire movies in depth, right down to the crazy dancing scene, which is, you know, what a callback. But this movie gets to do that same story again, and I think it really ends up doing it better. Because Peter actually has three father figures in this film. His dad, his uncle Aaron, and Peter B. Parker all serve as father figures to him. Mm-hmm. And I'll save it for later in the conversation, but they all play a very important role in his development as a character. Miles is a character I just fell in love with because of the journey he takes from boyhood to manhood by going from being Miles Morales to Spider-Man by the end of the film. And a quick apology. We're all Americans, so we're going to call him Miles. But for those of you that are in Canada or Europe, we also mean kilometers Morales. Huh. Just forgive us Americans for calling him Miles.
But I'm cheating.
Yeah, okay. I've been sitting on that one all day. I just couldn't. I thought it was solid gold. It made me laugh when I thought of it. So
you got your dad joke in.
Yeah, I got my dad joke in.
Rhaegar came to say hi to everybody.
Hi, Rhaegar. Too bad you destroyed the backdrop.
Yeah, he did. It's okay. He's the only one who gets to be in here because he's good enough to behave most of the time.
Just not today.
Not today.
See, look. At least one person. But I'm seeing more boos. I'm seeing more boos than yays, so yeah. Anyway.
Somewhere as a child.
It is what it is. Okay. Yeah, before I made that stupid joke, I really was trying to complete a thought. This Miles he's not just a child growing into an adult, which this movie is doing, but he's also an other trying to find his circle, his group. And I think that's probably something that's very relatable to us also. As someone who grew up feeling like an outsider, like I didn't belong anywhere in particular. I know that's the case for you, John. Sanri, less sure, but like if I had to bet, and that's something else, something that also speaks to me on a very deep and personal level, which is probably why I love this film so much. All right, I'm done.
Kilometers Morales.
Yeah, you're going to be look, it might not have been great, but it's going to haunt you. You're going to remember it.
Yeah, that's not going away. Yup. Anyway.
So I guess we could just start from the beginning, because it does sort of start in that more hyper-realistic style. Although it's got a choppy frame rate because they doubled the frames. Each frame is exactly the same for 2 frames.
Yeah, so that's called animating on 2s.
Okay.
It's a really old style. It's way easier than drawing 30 frames, drawing 15 frames, and then just doubling it.
Right. Well, they do 24 and 12.
Okay.
But like it makes sense. You only have to draw half as many pictures.
Yeah.
But it gives it that sort of distinctive. It's a more stuttering style visually. It bothers some people even. I thought it was great because it also juxtaposes after the spider bite. It goes like we see Miles in a more in 24 frames per second. So it's a lot smoother, a lot more fluid in the animation.
They're doing stuff like intentionally where they're like cutting and chopping back frames to do that glitch effect. So that might be what you're reacting to. Like I noticed it like is visually bouncy in that way.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the glitch effect was also super cool. Like it took me a while to figure out how they pulled that one off. And I just got done animating a glitch effect on this silly astronaut commercial I'm doing. But it's hard. And they did a lot of like 2D compositing to pull that off. And it looks really neat. I really liked how they did it. And they definitely like exaggerate animations when they do it in the 3D.
Yeah. So, okay. So the film starts we really actually open on Peter Parker. And he's kind of like, this is the perfect Spider-Man. He's successful. He's,
Blonde.
He's blonde. He's in his mid-20s. He's got the world before him. And he is still like physically, he's at his peak. Everything is going right for this guy. And he is sort of like our best hope version of Spider-Man.
I do also want to comment on the fact that this movie starts off by like showing us this, version of Spider-Man, and like there's so many references thrown that are pulled from all the different Spider-Man movies. And it's so quickly, in fact, that I didn't actually catch the first time I saw the movie that the kiss moment that's reminiscent of the Tobey Maguire movie is flipped with Mary Jane upside down.
Mm-hmm.
When the first time I saw the movie, I didn't even catch that. But it automatically like sort of welcomes in all fans. Like we immediately kind of feel at home, regardless of, you know, which Spider-Man might be our favorite. And so I really like the way they did that.
Just gonna put that up on the screen for a second.
I only have nicotine with me.
Yeah, I don't smoke in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But like the movie gives us the basically, I mean, we don't get much time with the character to sort of feel what it would be like to know that Spider-Man better. But, you know, it does shorthand. This is the best version of Spider-Man there is. And then like he goes into the background and we get Miles and we get that great song Sunflower to introduce him. He's doing his art at the table and jamming out and
which, by the way, is ingenious because like you immediately just love this kid.
Yeah, and a large part of that might even be the fact that he's singing along but he doesn't know all the words, so it's like music's the same, maybe I'm a wreck. And like, let's be honest, we've all done that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, none of us can identify with that.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely don't draw and sing songs I don't know all the words to.
Right.
Never. Yeah, I loved that he was an artist so much.
Yeah. Well, and it's a central part of his character, too. And given that it's the visual medium of originally comic books, but also, you know, animated or, you know, cinema is a visual medium, having him be a visual artist makes a lot of sense. He gets to express himself through that way, and I appreciated that too. Now, I don't have the eye you do, but like I still can go, is good, you know.
Actually, I don't think this is true Guilty Understated, because I think there's shots of him doing something on the bridge, which is pulled from the first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie.
I haven't seen Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie,
okay.
So I couldn't tell you for sure. But yeah, I kind of love that we get this look into his life, and you know, we learn he's going to a new school, and obviously he fits in the neighborhood where he grew up. But then we get to the school, and that is his most. He is the other there. He's the new kid, and he feels out of place, and he doesn't want to be there. Something I noticed on this rewatch that I never noticed the previous 5 or 6 times I watched this movie is that when he first meets Gwen, she backs into him on purpose.
Yeah.
And I did not notice that. But then I'm like, of course she did. She knows, she's got the spider sense. She can tell that Miles is one of them the same way that he could tell that Peter Parker and eventually Peter B. Parker were both spider people. She was there to meet him.
Mm-hmm. They say that later, right? That her spider senses told her to go to this place.
Yeah, but like beyond just knowing to be there, by that point knowing that's the person I need to bump into. It's a nice little touch.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? He goes to class. He does, well, no, he goes to class first. Then he bumps into her in the hall. Got to get the haircut. I mean, like, that is the worst way to meet a girl I think I've ever seen.
Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. And the thing is, like, she's telling him just relax, and that literally is what he needs to do, is to relax, which he figures out later. But as I'm just running through the movie in my head, I got to that scene. Where do you think you're going, Morales? Play dumb. Who's Morales?
Yeah.
Not that dumb.
The subtle humor is a thing that Sony Pictures does all the time in these films that are like they're made for kids, but they do have like really good quips in there that are for the adults, I feel like that.
Yeah. But it's also like, it's after, so we skipped over the whole section where he's like hanging out with his uncle too.
Yeah.
Because he's already been, Uncle Aaron. What a fantastic character, voiced by Mahershala Ali, who's just, he could read me a bedtime story and I'd be very happy. He's got a great voice, and you can clearly see the connection between the two of them, and there's
Mhm.
subtle hints. I'm going to be out of town on an engineering job and things like that.
His voicemail says like I'm out of town for a few days
Yeah.
whenever they call. And he's just like he's like the first father figure that hi Jinx.
Hi,
He
James.
was
Nice to see you.
the first father figure that you mentioned earlier of the three that
Mhm.
Miles has, and really just like serves as like an art teacher for him, which I think is really important for his growth. Like I don't know where I'd be without all the many people who've helped me in my artistic journey. Like you need somebody to show you things and give you feedback and stuff.
You do. And the thing is, Miles has that connection because Uncle Aaron is willing to is encouraging Miles to be expressive, to express himself. Now, that's why he only partly makes a great father figure because of his alter ego and like the links to which he is willing to go to get ahead in the world. I can't imagine I would want to be a supervillain for money, but that's got to be what it is.
Yeah, it's got to pay well.
Yeah. I
Like it's
mean,
got to, and he gets a cool suit and stuff. Like, I mean, I get it. I get it. Not gonna lie.
Wilson Fisk has got a lot of money. That much
Mhm.
we do know. Um, but that sort of like father figure that can believe in the version of in your idealized version of yourself, and likes the things that you do, thinks your art is cool and that your art is how you express yourself. Of course, you're going to gravitate to that person. But he's got some bad lessons to teach if Miles isn't careful.
Mhm.
Um, and the Prowler, just like from a power standpoint, he's not the scariest bad guy, but that relentless pace and that musical hit that accompanies every time he's on screen that sounds almost like a warning siren going off. He becomes terrifying.
Yeah, I really like his visual design. It's very angular and like shadowed and dark in certain places, and they even do like a purple color grading on him when he's not in costume, so you kind of have that lead up, that visual hint that oh, this is who he is even before they actually reveal it to you, which I thought was pretty cool. I caught that on like the second or third time I watched it. I think, hello again, Rhaegar. Oh God. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and okay, one last thing I want to make sure. I'm trying not to make this too structured. I like to just go all over the place, but I feel like I almost have to go through this movie beginning to end and then go, oh, I forgot to talk about something we already talked about because there's no way I'm going to get to it all. The piece of art that he throws up in the abandoned tunnel that says expectations, and there's all these bright and beautiful colors going on around it, and there's a black silhouette in the middle, is an inspired piece of artwork to me because he was supposed to read Great Expectations, he was supposed to write a report about Great Expectations, and he goes and puts up this huge piece of street art with his own empty silhouette with all of these things around it, meaning that he is still an empty vessel waiting to be filled, not knowing who he really is, and can be influenced by any of these father figures, including his real dad, his Uncle Aaron, and Peter B. Parker, are all going to put things into him which will fill that void by the end of the movie. And I think visually, it's just stunning piece of artwork. I'm sorry, I don't know if you have feelings about that, like the meaning behind it that I do, Sanri.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like it's very much something like a 16-year-old boy would make, though.
Okay,
Like,
fair enough.
I'm just like, yeah, it's a little literal, buddy, but I get it. I get what he's going through. It's street art. It's him expressing himself. I thought it was really pretty. I think it was really well done. That scene was really important to me, like I mentioned, because you do get that like art, like teacher, art mentor vibe. So
what you're saying is that I appreciate 16-year-old boy art. Got you.
Not going that far. I'm saying I think it's good, and I like the moment in the film.
Yeah.
But it's very much something a 16-year-old boy would make.
I got you. I got you.
Now, what I what I sort of liked about that, because Stephen, you mentioned like his sort of father figures and mentors are going to each put things into that, but it's also for me about him realizing that it's himself, it's what he's going to discover about himself, and not so much waiting on others to fill in those gaps. Him fully expressing what's inside of him, and and there's that moment right before he becomes Spider-Man, where his father's saying, whatever you choose to do, you're gonna be great at. And so I think it's a recognition of bringing out his own inner qualities, rather than waiting for other people to tell him what he's supposed to be.
It's kind of like the challenge and the moment where he's like, okay, I got to do something. And I'm not trying to bash his art at all. Please don't get that.
Yeah, he's good. But I get what you're saying, like conceptually.
Yeah, I'm like, he's just growing. He's just a little baby. He's going to get better. And he did something beautiful and he should be proud of it. Like, but I'm just saying, it's like, I remember what I did when I was 16 and I'm like, I get it. Yep. I think I do feel like it's a very beautiful moment. And the lighting, I think, is fantastic. And again, I liked all the spray paint effects. That was something that I knew was going to be challenging when I saw like what he was doing. I was like, oh, how are they going to show this?
Well, you do really watch animation completely different from the rest of us.
Yeah, there are things.
But that's okay. Like, I love it.
Like when he's trying to call his uncle on the train, they do this reflection of his screen in his eyes. And I was like, okay. Like that, they intentionally do all of these things to really sell the hyperrealism, and they sell the style so well that I just love it. It's so well thought out because you have to do that intentionally. It's not like something that magically happens. Like you have to be like, okay, this is going to work correctly, if that makes any kind of sense.
It does make sense. Like I noticed that they will do like the reflection of the top lights of the subway off the pipes above the subway car as it's passing, and I'm just like, and it's very contained to just those pipes because it's a soft light, but it's there. I'm like, man, y'all really just
what it means to me, if I can be technical again for a second,
sure,
is in 3D basically what you have to do is they have to build all of those elements and recreate like a world that is just what's going on in those shots. Some shows and some movies do it in a way where their backgrounds are not realistically lit by actual elements in that world that they've created in 3D. So these people are doing like what I do, where they go in and they put lights in every individual light bulb. They set it up to work. They create textures that are physically realistic. Like you can see it especially well in the shots of New York on the streets when it's wet. Like the way that the light reflection works in the asphalt is perfect. I know that's really specific, but it is perfect. And so they're making these like little visual sets for each one. That's why it works so well, why everything feels seamless, because they're putting that much time into it to make it all be lit properly. And then they take it into their 2D compositing to blend that 2D, 3D style. And they add more stuff on top of it, but they keep that realism. And that's why I think it works so well.
Sorry,
John?
I'm typing.
Your turn, John.
Focus, Stephen.
Sorry, like I'm also look. There's a chat section. We I engage with the chat too. Your live stream, you know how it works.
Yeah, so I think the whole animated. You said it was on 12s and 24s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting to me because they would have had to do it. Ooh, that would be difficult. You mess that one up once, you're screwed. Because if you do something in a wrong frame rate and you have to go back and fix it, it's a nightmare.
Because it throws out everything else.
Oh, yeah, everything. So that would have had to have been something that they developed. That's very interesting.
Because, John, 24 FPS is standard film frame rate, right? Yeah.
24.96, but you were close.
I guess I just got told. Anyway.
Anyway, where were we at?
I love this. Thank you so much, Danny. When Kilometers is in the back of his dad's car on the way to school is the most realistic teenager attitude ever.
Oh my God, but when they get to the school, that whole bit, you got to say it back. I want to hear you.
Yeah. I love you, Dad. I love you.
Dad, are you serious?
That was really cute.
That's a copy. As a dad myself, can confirm it is a joy to do that type of thing sometimes. Not too often. Like, your kids will hate you if you do it too often, but
my dad was a fireman, and he liked to drive the pumper past my elementary school when I was on recess and honk the pumper. It was really embarrassing. But he did it like every day for 2 weeks until my mom said, stop that.
Okay. And one of the other things that really stood out to me in this rewatch was the movements that 26-year-old Peter Parker, blonde, super Spider-Man, his last sort of like web slinging acrobatic thing he does is something that I took a little bit more like notice of this time and compared it to what Miles does at the end, which, since it happens for the first time here, I'll just talk about it here. That might, okay, and maybe Peter Parker, because he offers to train him. He says, I will help you learn. And he's never had anybody to help him learn. He's just been doing it long enough that he's got it down. So he is an unofficial, maybe fourth mentor figure. He doesn't have a lot of time, but and really all he does give him is sort of like, you've got to just keep getting up. He gives him the pep talk version of advice. But the other thing that Miles takes away from that is that scene where don't watch the mouth, watch the hands. And when he swipes the goober and he goes flying through everything and he's like, we taught him that, right? I didn't teach him that. And you definitely didn't teach him that. No, Peter Parker taught him that, because the movements are almost exactly the same, what Peter Parker did and what Miles ends up doing at the end. It's just a nice callback. And it's not animated from the same angle, so they had to do the whole scene basically twice with two different characters. It's just really well done.
Yeah.
And a nice way to acknowledge that Peter Parker has had an effect on Miles Morales.
Yeah. So, John, I feel like you didn't like this as much as me and Steven did.
No, I do.
Okay.
No, I don't think you do like it as much. I think you just like it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. God, you guys are doing this to me. Steven, you're coming from a position of no film is perfect, but this one comes pretty close.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love the movie, but I don't rank it that high. But
it's my look. I'll put it to you like this: it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, and it's in contention to be my favorite superhero movie, and that's coming from somebody who loves the MCU.
I'll be perfectly happy just so long as your favorite isn't an MCU movie.
Right.
This one was not.
Cloaked One brings up the bagel animation joke. I don't know what the happy accident is, but it is hilarious that, selecting a bagel. And then when they bust out, Peter B. Parker tosses the bagel to Miles, who then throws it. And a scientist is coming out the door right behind him. The bagel lands on his head and it literally says bagel. like text pops up that says bagel right when it hits the guy's head, which is ridiculous and silly, but it's those little touches that made this movie great. My favorite. Anybody have a favorite sort of like onomatopoeia moment where they splashed something across the screen? No,
not particularly. I have a favorite moment of just a tiny little side joke. Will that work?
Sure.
When Spider-Man Noir, who is definitely my favorite alternate dimension Spider-Man, obviously,
right.
When he's holding the Rubik's Cube and he goes, "Is this purple?" And Spider-Ham goes, "Green." And he's just like, oh. and just like so depressed because he doesn't understand color.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I thought that was the funniest thing.
It is a throwaway
Gets me
line.
every day.
My favorite is a Spider-Man noir one. He punches, oh gosh, I can't remember if it's Scorpion. I think it's Scorpion, but it says applesauce across the screen in the background behind him. And I'm just like, applesauce? Really? It's I don't know why that is so funny to me, but it is.
I liked how they did like little stars and little brackets and said translated from Spanish. And I was like, okay, that's what that means. And I just like went with it. Like those little visual things that people who come from comic books know to do. I'm like, yes, that's very good. That's in there. Did you see Cloaked One said an animator misunderstood the instructions and literally wrote bagel as the sound effect? They loved it so much that they kept it. I mean, that would be me. That would absolutely be me, who'd be like, what does this mean? Bagel for the sound effect, and just type it in there. Send it to print. Oh, no.
Cloaked One is explaining the misunderstanding, and that's hilarious.
It's amazing.
No, I do love this moment with Stanley.
Oh, just
it always fits eventually.
And the little gleam off of his teeth, and he's like backlit, so he looks like Notorious. I was dying.
I also love that he greets us with, I'm really going to miss him. And this film, it came out shortly after Stan died.
Yeah.
So it's one of the last things he ever did. This might actually be the last thing. I'm not sure if it's this or something from the MCU, but this was very near the end of his life. And he had died by the time the film came out. So there was a nice, it was just a very cathartic, I'm going to miss him from Stan,
Mm-hmm.
Nice moment. But the it always fits eventually is playing directly into the narrative of what this film is trying to do anyway.
But then, of course, you get the sign in the back that says, no refunds ever.
Yeah.
No, it's a joy. No, a lot of my favorite bits in this movie, I'll admit it, I absolutely adore Spider-Ham. I just think that what's the comedian's name?
John
Mulaney. I think that man is absolutely hilarious, and just all the stuff like the moment you first see him, it can get weird. and
it shouldn't work, but it does. It does.
But I love also. I just want to mention the very end before he leaves, and he's like, "That's all, folks." And then Peter B. Parker says, "Can he say that legally?"
And just he hands him this giant wooden mallet. I want you to have this. It'll fit in your pocket. Oh.
I love that leap of faith scene that Cedric pointed out.
Like, I was going to go off because I consider this maybe this is the emotional climax of the film. This scene, because it comes after, the part of the film that goes from Uncle Aaron gets shot to Miles arrives at the ball, he's outside. That is flawless storytelling. That chunk of the movie is because he loses his Uncle Aaron, and he loses him in a really heartwarming way, though, because he said, I let you down. You're the best of us. Just keep going. Just keep doing that thing you're doing. Don't go down the path I did. And then he gets Peter B. Parker telling him, and this is the guy that's wanted to believe in Miles. He did want to believe in him. There was some early parts where it took, but really after they visit the Alchemax headquarters, he really wants to he's enjoying being the mentor. He's enjoying having somebody look up to him in that way. And he has to make the decision to tell him, you're not ready right now, which is probably not something that he wants to do. And it's made even worse by the fact that all the other spider people are waiting outside, hoping that they're wrong, and that that he is ready, but he's clearly not, because he has to get that moment with his final father figure who tells him, I know I'm tough on you, but he completely drops the tough love and he just says what he's genuinely feeling about his son, which is what he needed in that moment. And that's what gives him the impetus to do the leap of faith. Is Uncle Aaron and Peter and Jefferson all having those moments with him, and those happen back to back to back. All three of his mentors have a scene with him back to back to back, and it just puts him in the right place where he is ready to actually take the jump.
Yeah.
And I do want to say I think that moment between Miles and his father from opposite ends of the door for me is sort of, it's definitely, I mean, it's the emotional like high point of the movie, and it's also just the thing that makes everything click for me in this movie, because that's not even like a quote unquote superhero moment. That's a father and his son.
Yeah.
And it's so emotionally raw and honest, and it made me tear up watching the movie.
Well,
and
because Jefferson has lost his brother at this point. He's just lost his brother, and he is probably recognizing the growing divide between him and Miles. That he probably didn't see happening with his brother, but now that it's happened, he sees it happening again. And yeah, it's such a beautiful moment. I agree, John. Like, it gives me chills. JP is giving him chills while we're talking about it. I get it. It's beautiful, and it's what we all wish our parents would say to us. Even those that they give us the tough love, but to have that moment where your parent tells you, "I'm going to be proud of you no matter what you do." It's a thing that not all of us get often enough. I'm very fortunate. My mother is extremely supportive. This lady right here, love you, Mom. But yeah, it's just a beautiful moment. But then there is the leap of faith scene, which has so many visual callbacks. It's kind of not even funny. From like when he's falling, when he first tries to jump off the building, he's falling and he's followed down by the.
Sorry, I just love the part in that earlier scene where like he's ready to try, and then he runs back down and goes for a shorter building.
Yeah.
He's literally running away from his problems in every part of this movie until this point. Like, he's running from the Prowler. He's trying to run out of school. He's trying to get away from all of his problems. He runs away from the spider cave when he can't quite measure up. Miles is always running away. This is the first time he's going towards his problems to face them, which is obviously a huge important step, and why metaphorically this is sort of like the climax of the movie.
Human heart and conflict.
Yes, good stuff.
By the way, you just
in that earlier scene, he's followed down by the scream, and he hits the flagpole. In this scene, he whips agilely around a flagpole and then goes up into the air and is followed by a woo as he's climbing through the same canyon that he fell through earlier. And you can see a lot of his Uncle Aaron in him in this part of the film, because he moves like the Prowler moves. He has a lot of this wall running parkour type maneuvers. He still does the Spider-Man whip and release web slinging, but he's a lot more ground based, and he does a lot of the rooftop to rooftop parkour running that makes his movement visually distinct from all the other spider people.
Right.
And it's highly influenced by the way that Predator, his Uncle Aaron, moved.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool touch.
It was like his own thing that he made out of all of his influences. And I really like that Peter B got to be a teacher. I think that was really important. Got to have that bond. I don't know. Do you guys think that he went back to his universe and got back together with MJ?
I mean, he definitely rings the doorbell. You know, he's definitely there with flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
do you think it worked out?
Well, we might find out, because I know I just read an article that said he's hoping that he gets to be in the sequel.
Oh, please! He was my favorite part.
Yeah,
he was so good.
Peter B. Parker,
and especially because like I don't know if they like officially said whether this was the case or not, but he's at least very similar to the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man. You know,
this is true.
So I had a lot of affection for him, and you know, I love like when they go over to Aunt May's house, and he's like, oh yeah, I got a shed just like this, and then you know, it goes down into the the cave and everything. He's like, this place is kind of pretentious.
Yeah. He's just got the best dry humor, and he's kind of like a mess up, and I feel like that's why I like him so much. Him and Spider-Man more best ones.
Like the thing is, all the characters are great. Like the one I probably connect with the least is Penny Parker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anime girl with robot. I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna hate on it, but didn't speak to me.
Well, I so love that, because it's like, you know, it was at that point like, yeah, we're watching an animated movie, so like take full advantage of that and bring in, you know, all kinds of different styles of animation. So I just love that all of a sudden there's an anime, you know.
I don't hate it. It's just the character probably spoke to me the least of all of them.
I thought it was interesting what they visually did with her versus all the other characters. They kind of did a completely different style for her.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, it was really good.
Well, because Gwen and Peter B are kind of in the same style as Miles, but the other three are not.
Yeah, well, also the thing is, like, as far as why maybe she didn't speak to you, those other characters come in very late in the movie, and they're more relying on like sort of the humor of what kind of style they're in to earn our affections quickly. But it's inevitable, like you throw in a bunch of characters in like the last 30-40 minutes of the movie, it's somebody's going to get the short shift, and so we don't find out like a whole bunch character wise of these.
Right, they don't get them backstory.
Yeah, so
other than I was bitten by a radioactive pig, which is my best. It's the best backstory of any of them. Like, just I love this whole movie, and like I like Penny Parker. He's just the one I'm probably least impressed with, but I don't know. It just is what it is.
Honestly, like I'd love like you know, at least like single installments for all of these characters, just like you know, splintered off into their like, yeah, give me a whole movie that's Spider-Ham. I don't care how ridiculous it is.
I think it's the perfect amount for each of them.
That's a great quote. Yeah. Or a pretty hardcore origin story. But the thing is, this is his origin story.
Penny slaps him when he says that.
And not only is this his origin story, but like when we think of the Spider-Man origin story, Uncle Ben are probably the first two words that come to mind. Uncle Aaron's death is right around the corner when this gets said. So like it's literally this scene. And oh man. But throughout all the sort of like high tension and the examination of being an outsider, but finding your circle, you're finding the people that you match with, and growing from childhood into adulthood and facing all that, this movie also manages to be hilarious. Like the Peter B. Parker flashback origin story will never not be the funniest thing to me. Like, TGI Spideys, and like he's trying to eat the pizza while he's getting sucked through the dimensional portal in the Spider-Man outfit, crying in the shower, like all of that. I don't know why I should feel bad. I should feel bad for him, but I don't. It just makes me laugh.
I feel a little bit bad for him. I feel he's a little bit relatable. Like everybody, you know, like has gone through things like that, and
he's the most relatable to me.
Yeah, he's the most human of all of them. Well, Miles is really humanized,
but so Miles is so young.
Yeah, he's a baby.
But you know, Peter B. Parker is what, 38 years old in the movie. You know, I'm a little older than that, but like I recognize that guy. You know, the gut's a little more prominent than it used to be, and like you've got some regrets, and you've.
I feel like I identify with him a little bit more than I wish I did.
Yeah, me too. But like he has a great arc in the film where he realizes maybe he does want to have a kid with MJ. Like he's thoroughly enjoying being the father figure to Miles. You know, once they go to, what is it, Alchemax
or something like that.
Yeah. Once they go there, like he's kind of on board with being the father figure mentor to Miles, and
it's like when they break out and like he's teaching him how to swing. I think that's when he really realizes he can do it, because he says something to him like look at you're really doing it, and look at me still doing it, or whatever. And
me as the grizzled veteran who can still do it. You as the young one who can still do it, who can do it too, but not quite as good.
Yeah, exactly.
What a great dad line.
I'm sorry, but like he said that, I just automatically thought about that meme of how why can't I remember the actor's name? You know, from the Marvel movies, who plays and Paul Rudd. And just thought about that meme of, hey, look at us. Who'd have thought? Not me. So my mind went back to that. Sorry, side note. But no, I really love that. And then that's when Gwen comes into the scene, and like we just talked about like how fantastic
something
she is.
Steven said earlier was like each of like the way Peter Parker moved, blonde Peter Parker, Gwen moves like a ballerina, which I think they say something in like a throwaway line about it once, where she's like, do you move the grace of a ballerina or something, when they're all like bullying Miles in the spider cave. But yeah, they like intentionally do her in that style, and it's really cool, like an aerial ballerina.
Yeah, she's even wearing the ballet slippers the whole time. Like even in a background shot of her at school, she's still wearing, like, their attention to detail is spot on, but she is wearing those green ballet slippers the whole time. Yeah, I would say she moves like a ballerina. Peter B. Parker moves like a gymnast, but like an aging gymnast, I guess.
An aging gymnast who's a little bit overweight.
And Miles moves like a parkour expert, which gives them each a distinct visual style.
Hi, baby.
Doing ballet at the end. Did we? I don't remember a shot of Gwen doing ballet at the end.
I think so. Like when she's back in school.
Maybe like it's just
a
blink and you miss it kind of thing at the very end of the movie.
But no, I love and I like your haircut. You don't get to like my.
If you do that, that is absolutely a rule. If it's your fault, you don't get to like it. Sorry. You made me make this decision.
I know you already mentioned it, Stephen, but that is seriously like the most awkward scene. Like when.
Okay, I got a plan. I got a plan. I'm just gonna pull really hard. How is that different from what you're doing right now? I'm going to say it now. We can come back to it. It's about time for a mid-roll. But did anybody notice the From Dusk Till Dawn movie poster in the background? Yeah. Like,
I didn't, and I'm ashamed that I missed that.
Man, there's a lot going on in the background of this film.
Oh, yeah. You gotta look.
A lot. I mean, like Coca Soda is one that's obviously very sort of out there in front.
Pickaboo is their Snapchat.
Yeah. I can't, like, Google had a different name. It was like Back Rub or something.
Yeah, and then there's like Angel or something. Angel Field or Angel Woods or something.
Oh yeah. Inglewood. Planet Inglewood instead of Planet Hollywood.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. There's a lot of little things, but my favorite was From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
A Shaun of the Dead sequel.
Yes.
Which would be, I would watch the crap out of that.
Yeah, who wouldn't? It's great.
Okay, so we've been going for an hour. It's time for the mid-roll. That means we've still got an hour to go, y'all, but commercial break. Real quick. Oh, yeah, good point. Also, PDNY instead of NYPD. And Red X. We're at the mid-roll now. Stop talking about Spider-Man for a minute and talk about, this is YouTube. And you're supposed to hit the like and the subscribe, and I'm supposed to ask you to do that because it's YouTube and YouTube likes that. Please remember to do that thing because it does help sort of like spread the channel around. If you, the likes especially. And, I appreciate subscriptions. It would be awesome if you did. If you're not already, I'd appreciate it. Upcoming content. John, you just did a stream last night.
Yeah, I had my good friend Hannah from Game of Owns on to talk about the film La La Land, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. We covered some different topics just about movie musicals in general, and then about how much we can't wait to get back to conventions. Go ahead and give that a watch. And since I keep forgetting to say this, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel.
Yeah, go subscribe to his channel too. Movies and stuff. Well, mostly movies, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't have another thing planned because not yet. Because next weekend I'll actually be out of town. So, but yeah, I'll keep you guys posted.
Okay, cool. Sanri, you got anything coming up?
No, but I have Sanrixian.com if you want some of my merch.
Link in the description.
I do have a new shirt dropping soon, and then we're on to the next 4 that I will be doing, which I'll be announcing shortly, and I'll probably just post that on Twitter like I normally do. And Rhaegar says hello again. Hello, Rhaegar.
Hi, Rhaegar. Rhaegar Purgarian.
Yes. The Silver Prince.
Come back next week on this channel, next Sunday. We will be discussing the first 2 episodes of Marvel's What If. Continuing the Animation August love, we're going to be going on to Marvel Studios' first MCU animated show. We'll only have 2 episodes by then. The first one is out already.
Which, since I can't comment on it next week because I won't be here, I just want to say, I want more Captain Carter content.
I don't think you're going to get much contradictory input when we do our coverage. But come back. Nessie will be back next week. She's working this week. We love you, sis. Come back to us. John will be out of town visiting good friends Aziz and Ashea, friends of the show, going to a puppetry exhibit. Is that right?
Yep, it's they've got a special exhibit going on for Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. So
that's just up your alley.
What?
That's right up your alley.
Yeah, so I'll be taking pictures, and I'll definitely have plenty to show you guys when I get back.
Right. I can't wait to see pictures, man. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, Nessie will be back, and we will be joined by this lovely lady.
Yay,
Erin will be joining us to talk about, the first 2 episodes of Marvel's What If. And then for the, the 30th, August 30th, we're going to do something else animation. It's Animation August here on Here Be Dragons. So I'm not sure what it is yet, but something. John has just been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time ever.
Yeah, which is why we need to make sure we do get to. We don't put off season 2 of that for too long, because I want to dive into the next season and continue on, because I'm really enjoying it.
So it might not even be August, but it won't be long before we get into season 2. We're also going to be starting Star Wars Rebels soon. So we've been doing a lot of animation on the channel lately, but it's good stuff. So can't complain. I've got a second channel. It's a gaming channel called Here Be Games. Link is down in the description. Currently, I'm playing Cities Skylines, which is sort of like a really great iteration on the city builder game. Think, what's that game called? SimCity, but just way better. Just way better. It's everything SimCity wished it could be. So, and I stream every Thursday night right now. I'm probably going to start streaming a little more often once we get past HereBeCon, which is our October gathering. Fingers crossed that it still happens. COVID, it is what it is. Anyway, I digress. I just had a thought. If it doesn't go down that week in October, the excuse you gave me for not being able to be there, Sanri, just goes right away.
Oh, look at that.
Doesn't mean I'm hoping for it to get postponed. Like, that would still really suck. But, it would be awesome if you could make it. I know you can't because your friend's getting married.
Yep, my best friend is getting married. I have to do my blood writer duties.
Yep. Hey, you got that, legit. I would be pissed if you didn't.
Yeah, that whole week I will be in St. Louis.
That's not the kind of friend you are, and I get it. I guess that's it for the middle. Oh, no. We've got patrons, and they're awesome people, and they deserve a shout-out. And our Patreon High Council consists of our alpha patron, Ridiculous Ed Tollett. We know you. We love you, buddy. I hope you have a safe drive home from work, which is probably what you're doing right about now. It also includes Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, Sixto Sounds, a.k.a. JP, the Axe Grinder, and the wonderful Lady Leaf Underhill, who is sharing a Sanrixian threadless design, Sanrixian threadless link in the chat right now. And I own a lot of Sanri merch. I've been drinking out of my coffee cup the whole time. I wear your shirts frequently. Yeah. I wear your shirts frequently, but I had Spiderman, so I went with Spiderman today,
I've lost my Spiderman light up sandals that I had. Otherwise, I would have those on today.
Yeah.
Big rip.
But our Patreon High Council is backed up by the lords and ladies of the realm, including Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, and our very own Reflective Rambling. Thanks, guys. We love you so much. Link to the Patreons down in the description for anybody who's interested. Okay, moving on. We have a really great film with still, there's still so much we could talk about this movie. I think I could go back and talk about the What's Up Danger Leap of Faith scene for another 20 minutes. And y'all would be like, we get it. Shut up. But it's so goddamn beautiful. It's so goddamn beautiful. The way this is something I haven't said, so I'm genuinely going to talk about it again. The famous shot, it's on the thumbnail for this video of him rising up to the city. That is the child rising up to the city is harsh, and they establish that. And it has this representation of surrounding him, but he is not falling down. He is rising up in that shot. Yes, it's gravity, but the perspective shows him rising to meet his destiny and taking full ownership that he has to face and move towards his problems rather than run away from them, which is why it's a shot that it became iconic before the film even came out, because they used it in the trailers, that shot of him rising to meet the cityscape, because they knew just how incredible it was from a visual standpoint. All right. I think I'm done talking about the leap of faith.
But I will say, like, and that is an extraordinarily potent, moment when Peter B. Parker is telling that to Miles. But then equally potent is just when it comes back around, when Peter B. is gonna do the self-sacrifice thing, like the hero always feels they need to do in these types of movies, and then Miles is like, nah, no, you need to go back.
You gotta go home, man.
Yeah,
the delivery of that line of "you gotta go home, man."
Yeah.
It just
yeah. Like I know I said, like, just a little bit earlier, you have like the emotional climax, but really this kind of brings it back to where like the tears come back, and then like it just carries you emotionally through the rest of the film, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So Kate, wondering, how do you feel about the score and soundtrack?
As far as the soundtrack, like the songs and stuff, admittedly, it's not my genre,
right?
But I recognize that it all works very well for the film, and I think like the songs are extremely well placed. Like I said, I think the song in the beginning when he's pretending to sing along, basically, it immediately endears you to the character, and other songs like when he's taking the leap of faith, like that works well. But I'm the score guy, so I'm like the score is fantastic. It's I don't think it's necessarily like I wouldn't call it like the most memorable of like superhero scores or anything, but I think emotionally it works really well. And in moments that we were just talking about, like with the leap of faith conversation and all that, it really tugs at the heartstrings. And so I think it's a beautiful score. A little bit of trivia: the music was written by Daniel Pemberton, who also did the music for Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. So,
oh, nice. I mean, and one of the things they do really well is that they have really great, strong themes. Like, when the Prowler's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Before you actually see him, because that leitmotif is so powerful. Or like the sound that's generated when they turn the universe collider on, it's got its own theme song. But then they will also blend that with one of these like soundtrack hip-hop tracks with the like orchestral score to make something greater than the sum of its parts that fits the scene. Like, again, I told you, every frame of this movie and every sound it makes is precious to me.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. I think that because when you have those sort of more emotional moments, the score feels more traditional in sort of the instrumentation and the swelling of strings and stuff like that. But what's really great is the way I still feel like it's extremely cohesive with the songs that are picked, and everything blends together very well. So I think it's a fantastically well constructed score, and it hits all the right notes.
And like, just the Sunflower song, it's such a like a chilled vibing type track. You could just kind of like the movie practically dares you not to dance along when that song is playing, just because it's so chilled and laid back, and it's such a you could just roll with it. But also I don't know the artist off the top of my head, but What's Up Danger, the way it's like just the echoing voice at first as he's falling or rising towards the city, and then he shoots the webs, and this huge like instrumental hit comes in, and so you can feel the impact of that moment. Both of those songs, like, I know a lot of times you make a score, when you score a film, you're watching a cut of the film and you are placing musical beats over what was filmed. I feel like they did the reverse here. They took the song and they animated it to for the hits, for the musical changes in it, and because it just works so brilliantly.
I mean, you can do it. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say you can do it either way. Sometimes you have a song in mind, sometimes the song is added later. But in this specific instance, I feel like they had a song in mind for sure. I feel like they did it intentionally, like you were saying, Steven. Like they made it to the music for sure. There's like beats and things you can do and like ways you can cut it, but I definitely think that they had a lot of purpose when they cut this together and they animated it to the song.
I do want to say, as far as the store, and also the scene that kind of sticks out in my mind is when you meet the rest of the Spider-Mans or Spider people, and the store sort of seamlessly goes between these different genres. You know, you've got the film noir and then like the super animated of, you know, Spider-Ham, and then in the anime flavor. And it's really neat to see the score kind of bounce between those.
I really appreciated the musical choices they made during Penny Parker's introduction. It was really great. The sort of like manic, frenetic, you know, anime style. Yeah. That was really well placed too.
Oh, yeah. This moment was great.
Yep.
Yeah. There's just so many moments to this movie, and you hear things about some films where you're like, freeze frame, and it's a beautiful painting. This film, maybe even more so. You could freeze this at any point and go, that is a comic book cell.
Well, also there's so many details to be found. You know,
there's so many what? I'm sorry.
So many details to be found in those freeze frames.
Mm-hmm. That's where you get like Planet Inglewood and From Dusk Till Dawn and
hours of building these sets and these props and hours. Let me tell you, people like designing and building out a wall that will maybe be seen once, or the corner of a top-down shot that you really just need from the faraway zoom. Like all of it has to be built, has to be made, might as well do it good. And they do. They really do. Like even like especially since they had like the whole city to contend with, some of the like skyline shots and the top downs when they're on top of the buildings looking down like at the city, everything's there. Like they didn't cut any corners, which I just really respect.
Yeah, totally. Like there's, as you say, like it's all there out to the edges of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But since they did it by twos, I'm only half as impressed as I would be.
Oh, but the 3D, I mean, do it on twos or not, you still have to build all of it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, like I was just looking it up. I just love everything about Spider-Man Noir, and the line is, sometimes I let matches burn down to my fingertips just to feel something, anything.
Yeah. It's a brilliantly delivered line. If you want to get Sanrixian a drink, you can buy her a mango flavored White Claw.
Or any animator, if you want to buy any animator a drink, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, but if you want to buy Sanri a drink, get her a mango White Claw. She'll love you forever.
Mango's not my favorite, but I do enjoy mango. Of the selection.
Well, I guess I need to keep up with the No Laws Just Claws channel a little bit better.
There's a problem, guys.
There is?
Yeah, because we have not talked about Olivia Octavius.
Yeah, we haven't.
My friends call me Liv. My enemies call me Doc Ock.
I loved her so much.
She's brilliant.
She was awesome.
She like a better villain than Wilson Fisk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was, he was fine as sort of like a big, intimidating guy, and his placement in the comic book world makes him a great person to use as sort of like the big bad, but she was the better bad guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's just got such a fun, twisted personality.
And they got to do stuff with those Doc Ock tentacles that they haven't gotten to do before because of the medium. So I just loved like the way she moved and her suit, and I loved her hair. As silly as it sounds, like I really liked her hair and her glasses design. Super cool.
Just gonna put that up again for a second. Thank you, Easy. Doing the good Garth's work out there. Unofficial timekeeper of Here Be Dragons.
Thanks, Wheezy.
Yeah, you're right though. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Catherine Hahn. I don't hate her by any means, but like, I know some people just love the woman to death. I enjoy her, but I'm not one of those love her to death ones. But man, Olivia Octavia is awesome, and they really do a great job of putting her in a position where if you're looking for it, you can know that she's a bigger bad guy. Like when Miles comes to school, he talks about having seen her in a documentary. You can see her name, Dr. Olivia O something, but you can't see because Miles is standing in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the rims of her glasses are octagons. The lighting in her office is all octagons.
Now, like, and this goes back to what I was sort of talking about of this movie being such a pure, like, Spider-Man experience. Like, even with, Fisk, he's not like, I agree that, Liv is like the funner villain, but the fact that Fisk is like like going back to like comic book roots of it's just like this enormous guy, and the way he's animated and constructed, so it puts you in that front frame of mind. And then but this is a very different version obviously of Doc Ock, but just like you don't even see it coming though, and then all of a sudden Peter B is like, what'd you say your name was again? And then when the tentacles come out, you're like, whoa, oh,
yeah. So when I announced I was going to do this movie this week, several people hadn't seen it at all. Like Kate Bertinsky here hadn't seen it. Danny McKay hadn't seen it. Somebody else I was talking to earlier, Potter Ruan, who's also in the chat, hadn't seen it. But they've all seen it now, and they were all like, okay, this was a good choice. So I'm really glad that my friends that hadn't seen it, a lot of them have taken this opportunity to do that. And they're all saying that they loved it and need to watch it more times. But I'm really grateful that that this movie's getting a little more love, because I think it's a masterpiece. I really do.
Yeah, I very often get, often it's well deserved, but I get a lot of flack from my comments on, Marvel stuff on this channel. But like, I am at my heart like such a diehard both X-Men and Spider-Man fan. So to see something done with the Spider-Man property that is just so ridiculously fun and inventive and like just exciting. I did walk out of the theater with just a big stupid grin on my face, because this movie just is so great all around. So
Yep. I mean, and the thing is, Spider-Man he's been around for a long time. He's had a lot of iterations in movies and television and video games, and so his story, Peter Parker's story, is quite well known. And I love how they start the film with, okay, let's go through this one last time, because we've all been through it with Toby and Andrew and Tom and whatever other iterations of the Spider-Man character you've grown up with, be they from animated or whatever
video game.
Like, we know the origin story, all right, but they do manage to like at least reference it, because they do have the Uncle Ben walking into the light with great ability comes great accountability.
Try that again.
Great power comes great responsibility. Obviously the real quote, but like I love Jefferson saying, "With great ability comes great accountability." So good.
I had forgotten about that part, and then when Kate posted that in the Slack, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, Jefferson misquoting Spider-Man is just—it's so good. Here's something I've run across some people who say one of the things that they feel detracts from the film is that Miles and Gwen don't have a romantic connection at the end of the film.
Detracts? Wouldn't that be a plus? Because like that's so cliche.
It is cliche, and the thing is, like, okay, Miles is sort of the titular character. He is the Spider-Man that we're really following. But there's like three main Spider people, and then there's the three sort of supporting Spider people: Noir, Peter Porker, and Penny. But the main three each have an arc, and from her origin story, we learn that she's not about having friends anymore. She's like, because what you may not realize, she talks about not being able to save her best friend. Mm-hmm. I believe in the comic books, Spider-Gwen actually ends up having to kill Peter Parker herself.
Yeah, I feel like that was implied. I don't know, like, if they didn't really make it seem like she did it in this movie, but if you know the comic books, you kind of know what happened.
Yeah.
His skin was all, like, messed up.
Yeah, it became like a lizard monster.
Like a lizard man or something like that, yeah. His skin was, like, scaled. You could see it into the Spiderverse, so...
But from that point on, she was like, that's it, I'm done. No friends anymore. And she's been a loner ever since. Miles is her first friend. Her arc in this film is learning to connect with someone again. And it's also really beautiful that the connection she have is with this sort of found family group that they made out of all these people who are the other from their own and her journey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's like, yeah, I think that's a beautiful resolution to her character arc for this film. And of course, I'm very interested to see, where that goes, because it's, with the way the movie ends, it definitely seems like she'll be returning for their next installment. And, but yeah, any kind of like romantic relationship.
I would be fine with it in a second film, in a sequel or something. I would be fine with it. Depending, if they did it the right way. But like, I'm really glad they didn't do it in this film. They let Gwen get to the point of, I'm willing to open up and be friends with someone again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Which, by the way, like, side note, I have to say, like, as someone who remembers first seeing her in True Grit, which she was utterly amazing in, I'm just so excited that Haley Steinfeld is getting to do so many different projects, because she's also going to be in the Hawkeye series.
Mm-hmm. As his daughter?
No, I mean, I don't know the comics very well, but she seems to be a protege. I don't know.
Like, she's playing his daughter? Yeah, I think it is his daughter.
Oh,
who he's teaching archery to at the beginning of Endgame.
Okay.
She got snapped, which is why he went so dark. I think. I could be wrong. I'm not a comics expert, but I think that Hawkeye's protege is his daughter.
I don't know anything about Hawkeye. I can't confirm.
Okay, well,
Google.
Maybe I'm wrong. Kate's over here saying Kate Bishop, and Lila is his. Okay, so I am wrong. Thank you, Kate. And then Egg chimes in. It's an admirer. Thanks, Egg. I have been corrected. Well, and I would like to move on from being incorrect as quickly as possible. So no, it's fine. I'm not. I don't have that kind of ego. We've been talking for about an hour and a half about this film now, and there has not been a single detracting thing said about it. So, is there a gripe about this movie?
I'm sure there are.
Is there a gripe that either of you have about this movie?
I don't think so. Like, yeah, because I mean, it's just because, like, you know, you guys are all like, you don't like this as much as we do you, John? I'm like, I remember seeing this in theaters, and I was absolutely utterly in love with the movie. So I really can't imagine that. Like, I don't have anything about it that I would say I didn't care for. Yeah, I don't know if there is something. I can't think of it. So,
Sanri, how about you?
I can't really think of anything specific. Maybe they could have cut 10 minutes out of it or something, or added 10 minutes, or yeah, like
cut 10 minutes, and Danny's over here saying it wasn't long enough.
I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I just thought it was a visual ride. I didn't have anything like super negative to say about it.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yep.
So Potter brings up an interesting point. He said he found the animation in the final battle a bit too busy, which, like, it's going to be a personal taste type thing, but I can actually I can thoroughly understand, because it is there's a lot going on, and it's not really very grounded in reality at that point, given that, like, which way is down is a question that you can ask yourself in a lot of that, and there's no easy way of knowing. So I think I can understand that point of view. I don't necessarily agree that it was too busy for me, but I can see that as a legitimate complaint a person would have.
I mean, like, the whole idea there is it's these different universes colliding. So I would kind of expect it to be visually busy. I don't know. It's kind of looked like how I felt it was supposed to look. So
I mean, he is right. There's a lot going on. It's like the visual climax of the movie. But, like, how is it any different than at the end of Endgame when there's, like, everybody there?
Right.
And everything's happening at once.
Because at least Endgame had a plane of gravity and a horizon, you know?
Sure. Like, I mean, sure. Camera angles, you know?
Right.
Whatever. But no, I'm not, like, bashing Peadar. I'm just, like, saying, like, that was the visual climax. That's where they had to show off what they could do and put everything into it.
Right. And, like, not everybody engages with every piece of art the same way. Like, you're allowed to have your critiques, and I'm allowed to be like, okay, that works for you, but I will never not love everything about this film. From even down to, like, somebody typed it out earlier, might have been Kate, I can't remember, but there's a whole, like, step 1, break into the lab, step 2, steal the computer, probably in the head scientist lab, and then Miles is like, that lady there, she's the head engineer, and he's like, okay, step 3,
check my personal
priorities. And he's like it even addresses that sort of, like, subtle, because we wouldn't say Peter B. Parker is a sexist, but he does have those preconceived notions, and I love that they wrote in him being aware enough of that to point that out.
But what's so great about that moment is that he doesn't say, I'd, go after the male scientist or whatever. It's visual. It shows him in the, like, in the comic panel or whatever, like, going towards the first, scientist that he sees, which is a guy. So his what he says about addressing his personal biases, it's all within the visual realm. It's so you got to be paying attention to what's going on visually as opposed to being told something. And I love that with something that's so inherently visual as like comic books and stuff. It's just
blah blah. Sanri, now listen, he's going to say you've got 24 hours.
What?
Wait, what?
He's going to say, you've got 24 hours.
Okay.
You've got 24 hours. I'm sorry. You were talking and I was doing this thing, but I was literally referencing when they were crawling through the ducts and Alchemax. And Peter B. Parker is so over Wilson Fisk talking to Octavian. He's like, blah. Spider-Man, Peter B. Parker literally does that to Miles. He's like, watch, he's going to say, you've got 24 hours. And of course, that's exactly the next words to come out of I guess I'll call him Kingpin's mouth. It's hilarious, man. Kingpin. God, just because you get the feeling with Peter B. Parker. What, you missed it?
It's right after the scene you were talking about where they identify, or actually it's way later in the film. Sorry.
But right. It's a Spider-Man who's been there, done that so much that like when the bad guy is giving his big speech, he's sitting there going blah 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 blah. It was just.
You didn't just tell me to shut up, Steven.
No, John, that's not what I was talking about at all.
He was trying to make a joke, John.
I was trying to make a joke, and it was not poorly, and it was a little bit poorly timed. But I love that he's the old beat down version. He's the Spider-Man who's been doing it too long.
What does Miles call him? Like broken hobo Spider-Man or something like that? Busted up hobo Spider-Man? I'm like, yeah, that's the one I like.
I love him. Like, I actually love all the characters. I really do, for different reasons. Noir and Spider-Ham, just for how silly that they're allowed to be in their own way. I think my favorite from a visual standpoint is watching Spider-Gwen do her thing. Miles is such a relatable character. The kid trying to become an adult. And then Peter B. Parker is, let's be honest, a reflection of Stephen B. Starker. There's so much to love from all of them. The one thing that this film lacks, and I didn't realize it until John came on, was a J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, which, given what they have done with the MCU now of using J.K. Simmons, like, they better damn well use him for these as well. I want my J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Verse movies too. But no, what you were talking about, Stephen, I remember when this movie came out, I don't remember like who said this on Twitter, but I just remember somebody making a post that was about, hey, don't steal my identity.
I hate how this format does that. Hold on.
But somebody was, posted on Twitter, like this movie was basically saying, you get a Spider-Man and you get a Spider-Man and you get a Spider-Man. And like, that's what it feels like. It's just, it's regardless of who your favorite was, like, that's kind of the point of making the audience feel like, what Miles says at the end, anyone can wear the mask. You could wear the mask. And, it's just the whole message of that is so inclusive.
We're counting on you. They're counting on me. I don't think they mean you. I don't think she means you specifically.
Nobody does.
Just, oh man. I'm losing track of where to go from here because my mind keeps racing back and forth.
Did either one of you guys have a favorite action sequence?
I mean, like a fight sequence?
Any action sequence?
Any action sequence. I mean, how do you not say the leap of faith?
Okay, another one.
So I'll skip and go to something else. And I would say it's from the moment when Miles first realizes that Uncle Aaron is the Prowler, and then he comes after him. That is a bone-chilling chase sequence.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I really like the whole thing with once they're running out of the lab and and swinging through the snow and everything, and then Doc Ock comes after them, and then
the buzzsaw and ripping trees in half and stuff,
and then Spider-Gwen comes in, and
saves them.
I think that whole sequence is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like none of them are bad in any way. And just the blended style, the like more traditional animated style with the way that they use words on the screen, the shoulder touch when he touches Kingpin and he goes, "Hey," and he knocks the crap out of him. It literally says "Hey" in the background. When the first time his spider sense goes off, you see a big "look out" pop up in the window where something's about to come crashing through.
The monitors, yeah behind him.
Okay, monitors, but still, it's like that's a really interesting way to visually represent. And of course, all the sound goes out in that moment too. There's no Foley artist doing their thing. There's no instrumentation or score or whatever. Like it just goes fully silent with that bright flash of "look out." It's a really neat way to sort of visualize spider sense.
Yeah.
And it is spider sense, not Spidey sense, just for the record. Well, I know, like colloquially, a lot of us say Spidey sense, but in the comic books, it's spider sense.
Interesting. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've read those comics. Long time. Man.
Yeah, Cedric says it was an amazing movie for a black Spidey to finally get his shine. Yeah. And the thing is, he is a black character, but he's also a Latino character, which means that he's cross-cultural, which often people who are cross-cultural will tell you they feel like they don't fit anywhere, which is more of that feeling like the outsider that this movie is really trying to drive home. Miles is the ultimate outsider. He's a kid in a new school. He is from a mixed heritage. So he probably really does feel like he has nowhere that he truly belongs.
Yeah, he's a great Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the really great things for me about this movie is that I like, and maybe part of it beforehand was the fact that, I had heard about Miles Morales for, a couple of years at least before this movie came out, but it was kind of hard to, like, because I'm not a huge comic reader and everything I know is kind of based off of like the 90s animated show and the movies and stuff. I think internally for me, I was like, well, Peter Parker is Spider-Man to me, but what this movie does so ingeniously is like, I feel like it brings you into the world. Like the movie starts off with, "My name's Peter Parker. I'm the one and only Spider-Man." And so I think like it brings someone like me into the movie. And then over the course of this film, it just makes you fall so in love with Miles. And by the end of it, like I'm so super hyped on his character and I want to see, his further adventures. And so, yeah, I think what this movie has done is, introduced, because a lot more people will see a movie, versus reading comic books and stuff. So it just brings more people into the world of Miles Morales. And so now he's Spider-Man for a whole new generation of people who are seeing this movie.
And like we were talking about earlier, like this is a really good Spider-Man movie, and we have had some interesting Spider-Man movies in the past, so it's really nice to celebrate this really good, really beautiful animated movie with a black kid as the main character. Like it's wonderful, like, and how much love and everything I've been raving about this entire stream that went into it. It's wonderful to celebrate him, and like Steven mentioned, he's both black and Latino, right?
His mother's Puerto Rican.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know the character super, super well, but I did read a bit of his comic run back in the day. Yeah. But again, it's been years.
So we've got about 15 minutes left in the stream, y'all. If there is something you got to get out about this film, now would be a good time to start bringing that up. Chatters, if there's something we haven't discussed, hold on. If there's something we haven't discussed that you feel like we should have, chatters, let us know. Now is the time.
Yeah, I love that Lily Tomlin plays Aunt May.
There was some love to that earlier. Like there was a lot of love for this iteration of Aunt May, which I agree. Like when she kicks open the door to the whatever, like this is action Aunt May, and she greets. Somebody pointed this out earlier. When Dr. Octopus comes into her house, she greets her as Liv.
Yeah.
Her friends call her Liv.
I couldn't figure out who the zombie dude was supposed to be because I got my canon mixed up and I thought it was supposed to be Solomon Grundy, but that's DC. But whoever that zombie dude is, when she like knocks him out of the house.
It's called Tombstone.
Okay. Tombstone.
Excellent soundtrack indeed. We did spend a little bit of time talking about that earlier, Santi. So I don't necessarily know that we're going to circle back to that at this point. But
that's great.
Hard agree. Great music. Both the orchestra, the orchestrated pieces, and the sort of like hip hop tracks that they use throughout. And
because
you guys know I do enjoy the hip hop. The whole point of Spider-Man is that he is an everyman, and every person. You're right. He's just a kid. Wrong place, wrong time. Spider powers, which again is foundational to his success, because every kid could identify with Peter Parker back in the early run in the 60s. I mean, he's out there doing Spider-Man things, but he's also like, he's got to make it to class on time, and he's having girl problems, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
AKA points out Catherine Hahn being Doc Ock and also Agatha makes the multiverse strong, which yes. Very much so. I can't wait for more of the stuff coming with the multiverse. That's going to be fun.
Well,
love those shenanigans.
I don't know. Okay, so it's rumor. I don't know how much I want to share here, but there's a lot of rumors going on around Spider-Man No Way Home, the next Spider-Man film that's supposed to come out. And I don't know if I should talk about the rumors for that, but let's just say that it might be drawing some inspiration from this movie.
Oh, good. That's excellent. I hope they do go in that direction for sure.
Yeah. Well, Phase 4 of the MCU is very much multiverse focused so far. Very much.
They have they confirmed that there's going to be an Into the Spider-Verse too?
I don't know that that's confirmed, but like they'd be crazy not to.
Let me.
It's got an IMDb page.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me see if it was. The film was officially announced in November 2019, and animation work began in June 2020. So it is in production.
So they've been animating. They've been working in production for a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it.
Well, Sanri, tell those animators to hurry up.
No. I will not.
Well, because if there's one thing we all know, it's that artists, really respond well to pressure being placed on.
There's so much pressure on them, I'm sure. That's why they've been working on it probably for over a year. I know that my friends at Floyd County have worked on that What If Marvel show. and they could not talk about it for like literally 3 to 4 years before it came out. All they could say was we're working on something that may or may not be related to Marvel, and they probably weren't supposed to tell me that, but you know, it's very closed doors. There's a lot of NDAs. You just got to kind of be quiet about it.
But that's the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's really cool. I'm glad they're making a second. It was definitely well received. Like this film, a lot of people really like it.
Yeah, I think like there is a group of people who are put off by the animation style. It gives them a headache or whatever, and I'm like, okay, like it is what it is. Everybody's different. Like I'm not going to judge. I think the movie, the story, the plot of the film stands on its own. I think the animation stands on its own as well. But like art being subjective, like I can at least understand somebody saying, I didn't care for the animation style. Okay, great. But
yeah, but and that's where I didn't.
The story of this,
people who don't have taste.
This is where I get in my gripes. It's like this was so like fresh and original, not just in like the script and everything, but in the animation, and like it's not like stuff you've seen before, which I feel like makes people run away. It's like they just want the same over and over and over, and it's like,
I agree with you, but like there is no accounting for a person's artistic taste. It is what it is. I'm not going to shame you. Now, I might think you're kind of an uncultured swine, but at least I won't tell you that to your face. Yeah, that's what we have Sanri for.
I will, absolutely.
But like this movie it's not perfect. There are no perfect movies. I don't want to give a perfect 10, but I will give this movie a 99 out of 100 every day of the week.
Amadeus is perfect.
Okay. I know you think so. I would give it, like, if it's as good as you say it is, I'll give it a 99 out of 100. There is no such thing as perfection. I'm a big believer in that. But man, there is nothing about this film I don't love, even. Like, even the parts where I'm like, I can say, oh, Penny Parker is not the part that pops. She's still a fun character. And I managed to feel bad when her robot is dying.
Oh, yeah, that was sad.
So just like...
Yeah, it's something that, you know, I'm kicking myself for not mentioning earlier when we were talking about this. Like, even, you know, though, she has kind of limited screen time, as do, you know, the other characters that come in late into the movie, like, you still emotionally respond to that moment. Like, the character hooks you enough so that you feel sad when the robot dies. And yeah, I think they do so much in this movie, even for characters who have a shorter amount of time on screen.
Yeah.
Right. I also really like that Potter reminded me of one of those jokes I really love where Gwen is like looking in on Fisk at the memorial dinner. She's like, what a pig. And Peter Porker's like, I'm right here. And another thing, I didn't notice. I didn't notice it on this most recent. I had noticed it before, but I missed it on my first pass. Is that Peter Porker's nose holes are often exactly in the same shape as his eye holes. Mm-hmm. So, like, his nostrils change shape to match his eyes, and that's really funny. I don't know why, but like, it's really funny.
It's one of those things like Bender's teeth, where like if they didn't do it, you would notice it so bad, but they do it and you're like, oh, it works completely.
Right.
It might be oddly specific, but look for it and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. Bender's like teeth, and because he's got the two lines, not the one, right?
Yeah, and if he didn't have it that way, I think you'd notice even worse. Did I freeze?
Yes, your video was frozen.
Oh boy.
But like, at least it's on a decent picture. At least you're not like halfway through a blink and talking. There it goes.
Okay.
Because that's the worst when your face gets frozen like. And it's happened to me while streaming before, so don't go look for it. You won't.
So did you guys watch the post credit?
Of course. Well, yeah, let's touch that post credit scene real quick. with Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaacs.
Oh yeah.
And then the pointing meme that we all know so well.
Which I don't think I was as familiar with that meme when I saw this movie originally as I am now. Now I find that completely hilarious. But yeah, it's great.
That's great.
So good. God, like I would just give me a part 2. I will watch it. Like it doesn't even have to be as good as this one. Just do your best to tell the progression of the story, and I'll love it. I promise.
Yeah, I know we were talking about the MCU, and people have even speculated that, with the whole them doing the multiverse and with this being a multiverse, are they going to intersect? I'm like, my personal feeling on it is, let this universe be its own thing and just operate within this playground, because I'm really enjoying the story that they've set up and the characters, and so I'm looking forward to seeing more in this vein. So I don't know. I don't want to have like insanely high hopes for the next one, because then I might be let down. But I think they're going to do a good job. I think they've got a really good team. The writing team, behind this was great. I'm trying to remember their names. They're the guys who were originally attached to Solo.
Gordon Miller.
Yeah. They just, I mean,
they crushed it.
Yeah. And it was great. So I'm very looking forward to the second one. And yeah, but I'll tell you, talking about like animated Spider-Man, and just makes me want to turn on the old 90s show after we wrap up.
Nothing wrong with that.
Best intro music.
Yep, absolutely.
Best intro music. Yep. I mean, the X-Men theme is still pretty good, but that's the best Spider-Man theme. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, which, by the way, like, sidebar, that the version of X-Men is still my X-Men. Always will be. So.
Yeah.
Well, we have heaped a lot of love on this film for the past 2 hours. I don't know that I really have much more to say, because I just keep coming back to, God, I love this movie. I think we've had the opportunity to really like touch on all the things that really moved me about this film. So, yeah, I think I don't know what else I can say that I haven't already said.
A lot.
Yeah. Do either of y'all have any final thoughts?
I don't know. I think I kind of said mine. So.
Yeah, I feel like I said mine too.
Okay. Yeah, my final thought is just give me the next one, and the next time a movie comes out that has anything like this, I'm going to support that film, because I want to support this type of animation. I want to support this kind of groundbreaking art. Because really, this film pushed boundaries in a medium that is, I think, probably not the easiest to push boundaries in. And so it gets 8 thumbs up from me, 1 from each spider leg or octopus tentacle, depending on which side you think I actually am on. But yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I lied. I'm going to say one more thing, which is that, we have been doing, animation month, and the fact that, we've been talking, we have been doing streams on Clone Wars for a while now, and we are talking about Avatar and, doing this, and What If is going to be next week. I'm going to repeat, that line again by, Spider-Ham. You got a problem with cartoons? Like, guys, embrace animation, because it's such a gorgeous, wonderful art form. And like, the more I watch, the more I love it. And and maybe I'm just harping on this because I'm tired of hearing people say, "Oh, cartoon isn't that for kids?" It's like it's not just for kids. It's
No.
it's an amazing art form. Like if you haven't seen this movie, watch this movie because it's like for a lot of people it's the best Spider-Man movie ever. For me, probably the best since. For me, Spider-Man 2 because I hold that very dear to my heart. But even still, like it's one of the best superhero films I think they've made. So yeah.
I'm just gonna say, real quick, that was the '80s Spider-Man. Spider-Man and his and friends. It's the '80s one. Just putting that out because Joe S was asking that question. Go ahead, Sanri.
I was just gonna say, give animation a chance. If you think that there's not something out there for you, you just haven't found it yet. I work on a adult TV animated show, so like there's something out there for everybody, I promise.
Yeah,
it's not all just for kids.
Yeah. This film at the end has a really great Stan Lee quote. It's something that I would like to quote, and then we'll sign off. Okay, before I do that, come back next week for Marvel What If, first 2 episodes. I'll be discussing it'll be me, Nessie, and Erin M. This lovely lady right here will be here to discuss the first couple episodes of What If. John, you don't have anything coming up. You won't be here next week. You'll be on a little mini vacation. Yeah. Sanri, you're about to drop a new t-shirt. Link to your Threadless shop is down in the description. And hopefully soon your commissions will be open because I have about 47 of them for you. Anyway, I know, get in line, right? Sanri, this is the downside of being such a talented artist. Everybody wants your.
Thank you. I appreciate all of it.
Yeah, and we love you. Do what makes you happy.
We'll just start moving, Stephen. We'll start moving our top 2 boxes down on top of Sanri to show we're being crushed slowly.
Yeah. Anyway, so Stan Lee said that person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed, without a doubt, a real superhero. We love you, Stan. Thanks for giving the world its most iconic superhero ever. You can fight me about Batman or Superman if you want. I think Spider-Man is at least in the conversation, even if you don't agree to me that he's the most iconic.
Yes, he's in the conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, so chatters, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out and discussing this fantastic film. John, it's a blast as always. And Sanri, always an absolute pleasure to have you join us. You are the first ever guest on this channel for anything I ever did. And 2.5 years later, you've done other stuff in between, but 2.5 years later, you're still willing to hang out with me, even though you know me better. So I must be doing something right. So yeah, love you guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see y'all next week. And until then, you know what it is. Peace and be excellent to each other.